Good evening. Just going to do a quick breakdown on my trade on pound yen today. This trade took place after London session, which is typically the session that I trade. I don't tend to look for trades outside of London session. However, based on where we are in the market and my weekly outlook, I didn't fancy myself trading within the current range. As we can see, there's quite a lot of rejection stuff in here. And don't get me wrong, there was an opportunity in London today to actually take a buy. But for me, it wasn't appealing. So I was waiting for price to come into either this area or this area as I planned. And that is where I would then look to get involved. And as this candle closed, this is the hourly chart. And this is the 9 to 10 hourly candle, which makes up the close of the current 4-hour. So that is how the 4-hour closed from 6 to 10. Again, it hasn't really went anywhere. It's moved up, it's moved down. It's kind of just remained roughly within the range. But there was a little bit of volume within London. And because we did break above the most recent resistance and we have then come back down, there is the possibility for this resistance to now act as support and we can get a continued move to the upside. And if I just fast forward 1 hour, that's exactly what happened. We can kind of see that with the new 4-hour open, volumes can come into the market and we've had a strong close. So at this time, I was just working away, not really paying much attention to the charts because I had an alert set, above roughly around 161, 650. And I had an alert set down here. So basically I was just not looking at the charts or anything. I was just waiting for that to get triggered. And that is just a sign for me, to pay attention. So when I have a wee look at the hourly chart, what I was looking for was I wanted to see a closure within here. And the sort of time frame I'm looking at that on is like either the 1 hour or the 4 hour. And given that this, fresh 4 hour, we're only 1 hour into the new 4 hour, given that this has moved up with a lot of momentum, that's like a 60, 63, 65 pip candle in total. So now that we're like 1 hour into the new 4-hour candle, if we do start to break and push into this zone, there's every chance that we can go on to test the top of this range. And this is clean traffic. So when candles are in this zone, there's a likely that we will see sort of continuation. And the fact that we are seeing some momentum and some volume come into the market, it's likely that we will get that push. So that's sort of my thought process. But there is every chance that the new hourly candle, if we do start breaking into that zone, there is every chance that the hourly candle just continues up, and because we have the clean traffic to the left, we don't sort of see any sort of stalling in price. Like this candle's broke down here and closed, and we sort of seen a bit of a support and a bit of a resistance before we seen the continuation. So there's every chance that can happen, but we don't exactly know where this new hour is going to close. If it closes at the top of the range, then essentially that would be my target. And if we get any sort of pullback, any sort of support forming, I would be buying that back up. But essentially I'm looking for an hourly close in here. For me, an hourly is a solid confirmation. 4 hours even better because it's a higher time frame. But if I just fast forward 1 more hour, that is how the next hour closed. So we did have some sort of lower time frame resistance at this previous resistance zone on the hourly, and it's also a monthly resistance. We can see across the board we have had some rejection in there as well. So that's what's happened. That's rejected or reacted, I should say. We have then pushed down and formed the lower time frame higher support, which is the wick creation on this current hour, and now we have closed within. So to me, I've got my confirmation. So all I have to do is wait for support. Okay. Because I've marked up my range, I am going to be targeting, the top of the range. So we're in a 45, 46 pip range roughly. And I'm only looking to get a piece of this. So depending on where the support forms will depend on where my target is and if there is potential for continuation. And if I just drop down to the 30-minute time frame, that is how the hourly formed with those two candles. And when I actually got to the chart, if I just fast forward to 15-minute candles, we can see that we have formed a resistance. Okay. So what I was thinking, see when this 30-minute candle formed this resistance, to me, that was going to be my target. Okay. Because what I was thinking was, well, if we start to actually pull back a little bit deeper and maybe react at this previous level, if we start to close back above, then what I will do is I will buy stops below the support and I will target the target, okay, the newly identified high. But what actually happened was the first 15-minute candle of the next 30-minute actually closed bullish and closed above the highs of the previous. So to me, that's a good sign. We're obviously in momentum. We can see that we're sort of replicating what we've done previously. We had a big push up. We had a little bit of consolidation. We had one resistance candle and then boom, we had a pop to the upside. The same thing's happened here. We've had a resistance form, one or two candles, bit of consolidation, and then boom, we've popped to the upside. And that's because we're in momentum. We're in the volume session. So if I just skip to the 5-minute, now I don't trade on the 5-minute, but when I actually got to the chart, this 5-minute candle had printed. Okay. So what that looked like then on the 15-minute, if I just go back one 5-minute candle and go back to the 15-minute chart, what that basically looked like here was we had the sort of work to the downside, and then we were sort of almost breaking, the high of the current. So that's sort of what the candle was. That's all actually a bad drawing, but we sort of had the wick down, which is of course rejecting the sort of top end of the resistance. Now it's reacting as it has support, and we had closed sort of like, bearish like that. And then as soon as the next candle started breaking the high, I actually got involved. Now the idea wasn't based off the 5-minute, it was based off of the 15-minute. And see, to be honest, see if I had got to the chart when this candle closed, I would have entered on this candle, because what I'm expecting is the second half of the 15-minute or the 30-minute candle, which makes up the 30-minute, is like this. Okay. And that we then make one big 30-minute candle, which looks like that, which are these two candles. So that was my sort of idea. And the fact that the first 5-minute of that new 15 had actually pushed down, and it's looking like a rejection of the resistance, and we've started to then push it up, and you can clearly see that evidence on the 5-minute. We can see here that we have pushed down here, and we've sort of rejected that resistance. So that's a good sign for me. So I got involved with my stop loss below the support, and if I just bring on my excuse me, my long position, this was my entry. And it's all relative to structure. My support is below the structure. My target is, front run by like 2 pips from where my actual higher time frame zone was. And of course, this is like roughly a 0.5. And I do have a good win rate with these types of trades. So it meets my plan in terms of what I like to see. And the only thing with this trade was, of course, how could I manage the position? For me, management wasn't sort of a thought in this, because I was accepting that this trade could lose. But I wasn't really looking at it actively as a management. My sort of thoughts at the time with the trade was, we have momentum, we're bullish, we're creating bullish structure, we are within the zone, you've got your confirmation. This is the first support within that zone after the confirmation close. And of course, the sort of win rate that I have, 80% of achieving sort of 0.5, and it was just in a clean area where price is likely to flow. So that was my position, and excuse me, the position was over within the next candle. As we can see what popped up. I'm not looking to squeeze this to get a 1-to-1, or to get a 1.5 or go below the 5-minute wick or anything. That's not how I trade. It's all relative to structure. So if I didn't get a support and price kept tanking, it is what it is. But price was able to provide an opportunity for me to get involved, and we can see exactly why my target, this daily resistance, was key, because what we done after was we completely rolled over to the downside. And if I just come back out of that, what we're basically doing now is we're back in the range. We're breaking below 4-hour support. However, we have all this wick rejection, and we can see that the previous 4-hour has rejected that. So there is every chance that we can still remain in here. But that was my sort of trade for today, based off of my weekly outlook, based off of the clean areas which I identified. It's just as easy as being patient and waiting for price to come into those areas and waiting for structure to form.